guys.
You had one job.
I exactly right. Okay.
No, you have
But
60
perfect
jobs.
timing as we kick off what our story is. So go ahead, Emmy.
Yeah. So the reason why Chris and I had started putting this program together was we found ourselves talking a bunch about the power of these midlife transitions that we were both individually encountering, but also with our clients and friends and family. And in talking about personal stories and recognizing what the narrative is that we are subscribing to and living by in life, I came to this time, I think it was 2 years ago when I visited my father in Japan. I hadn't seen him in about 20 years, and that says a lot in and of itself. But I realized I grew up with this story that I was telling myself of being abandoned. And I just carried this all throughout life and adult life, saying I have my dad issues and blah, blah, blah. And then when I finally went to go visit him, I had another experience of him. And it really made me question the way I carried this strong narrative my whole life. And I had subscribed to it. It was the truth. And there was just a small shift when I realized, oh my gosh, I actually can choose a different way to describe how I grew up and who my dad is in my life. And it was so liberating and freeing, and also a little sad that I held on to that for so long, but I think it probably served a purpose. Anyway, um, Chris and I have been talking about these issues for a long time and just realizing how there's a formula that we can apply to life that becomes um, a great a great alternate pattern to live by. That was probably too long, but
No, I loved it. Thank you, Emmy. That's
good job.
awesome. Yeah, Emmy and I have been able to coach and be coached by each other for a couple of years now. And if you haven't had the gift of being coached by Emmy, I can't say enough good about her.
Oh,
She's
thanks.
awesome. She's an awesome coach. I'm Kristen Rice for the few of you that I don't know, and hello to everyone on the replay. I'm a life transitions and empowerment coach, founder of Chapter Craft Coaching, and I'm obsessed with the topic of transitions in general and like what the opportunity within a transition is. And specifically, this topic around midlife stories, it's just been really beneficial for me and my mental health to live in this concept of questioning what the story is that I'm making about something. So, right now, I'm walking through something challenging with a loved one, and I'm not going to give any details because that would be weird and inappropriate, but it's really, really helping me at every step of the way to just pause and ask the question of like, what is the story I'm making up about what's happening right now? Just to reclaim a sense of ability in this very hard time and
Mm,
capacity, and even just like to invite my imagination alongside instead of feeling uh yeah, stuck or really just in pain without a good light to follow. So I am finding this question really helpful to live inside, and I'm hoping and thinking it might be something that is lovely to live inside for you as well. That's the goal, anyway. So let me just show a quick overview of what to expect with our time together. It's going to be a quick hour. We're going to look at the what, the why, and the how of midlife stories. Throughout, you'll have a little bit of time to and space to try it on for yourself. So you're welcome to do that in the chat. You're absolutely welcome to do that confidentially if you don't feel comfortable sharing anything. We want you to feel safe. This is truly just for what you want to take away from this, so you don't have to share anything you don't want to. And there's a bunch of people on the replay. So obviously those on the replay, jot down notes for yourself, and we would love to hear afterward how what insights you gain from this as well. If you stay to the end, we have a bonus for you, and just a little introduction to what comes next as well. And we are going to like make sure we are done by the top of the hour because
mhm.
midlife does not necessarily have lots of ample time. So we're going to honor yours. So let's jump in. What are midlife stories? We all know what stories are. We've been living in stories since we were infants, probably like even before, right? Like we're probably like hearing stories in the womb. We are told stories by our families. We're told stories about our families by our families. We see movies, we read books. Like we could live life in stories in so many ways. So we know what story is. Stories influence so much about how we see the world. Like it influences our assumptions, it influences our beliefs, it influences our feelings, our moods, even. And one of the things that I really believe is that story is just automatic for us. Like our brains are just wired to think in story. And that's one of the ways that our brain has actually figured out how to make sense of life. So it's just something that comes naturally. So we're going to look at this and kind of look at what comes naturally and make sure we get a chance to do it on purpose, really, together. So let's do a little practice about, if I can get my slide to go somewhere. There we go. We're going to write a story together. This is for your eyes only. So jot this down for yourself somewhere, if that's convenient. Midlife is, and then fill in the blank. I really recommend thinking about, like, for yourself, what is midlife? Midlife is, and then whatever you want to put there. It could be a long fill in the blank. It could be a short fill in the blank. I'm going to give you a moment to think about it. Emmy and I are also doing this for ourselves. So midlife is, fill in the blank. All right. So again, I'm not going to ask you to share that. This is for your eyes only, but hold on to that because we're going to come back to it. Today, we're going to explore a new approach and a new way of thinking about our midlife story. And it's not about perfection. This is our goal at the end of this is not to have a best-selling novel about midlife that we sell and if we get, becomes a movie with global reach. That's not the goal. The goal is a midlife story that feels good to live inside, a midlife story that serves, and to be able to explore what doesn't and rewrite what isn't working for us. So it's not about perfection. This webinar itself is not about perfection, but certainly creating the story and how we are really just trying on this approach is not about perfection. So I just invite you into the messy experimentation, if you will. Because midlife is really this, I think, an invitation to rewrite your story or reclaim your story or write it in the first place, whatever stage you are in your story and in midlife and whatever you need in midlife right now. And there's stories we hear in the world. Like we hear a lot of stories. I think unless you like literally lived under a rock, you probably hear 100 stories in a day when you think about it, like through the news, through if you open your social media app, a friend tells you a story. We just are bombarded with stories. So there are a lot of stories we hear, and then there's a lot of stories we tell ourselves, things, what we make of something, the meaning we make of something. And we don't have control so much over the stories we hear. Like we can tune out, we can put our phone away for a while, but you're still going to be exposed to story. But we do have control over the stories we tell ourselves. And that's really the purpose behind this particular workshop as well. So I want to hear from you. And if you're open to it, go ahead and write this down for just yourself. I'm not going to ask you to share it with us, actually. So here's a statement. I want to hear if you agree or disagree. Actually, I don't want to hear. I want you to get a chance to write it down. I just said that. Just write it down.
Okay.
Yes, exactly. So here's the statement. I am the absolute author, editor, and publisher of my story. Do you agree or disagree on a sliding scale? 0, totally disagree. 10, completely agree. Just write down the number that you feel right now in response to this prompt. I am the absolute author, editor, and publisher of my story. Write it down somewhere for yourself. Emmy and I are going to do this too. And then just hold on to it. We're not going to share it with each other, but we're going to come back to it. We're going to move to the why stories matter. Before we do that, though, I'll just pause and ask, are there any questions about just what story is, what midlife stories are? Okay, excellent. Then we'll move on to why. Why do these matter? Why is it worth spending some time and energy together this evening, even just thinking about this concept, these topics? I think that a lot of people arrive in midlife and live midlife without a lot of on purpose thought about it, really just often trying to get through it. Midlife is really genuinely full of challenge. Like there is scientific data that shows how this is basically the low point of happiness in a person's life. And the good news is there's upside after 50 in general, but it's full of challenge, right? Like we're in the sandwich. We're in either childcare or empty nest or loneliness, or just our bodies are changing on us and generally in ways that are not positive or fun or comfortable. There's just a lot of change and struggle, and this is a really long chapter of life, right? So it's a big chapter of life, and it's got a lot to it that is hard. It has a lot to it that's wonderful, but I don't think it's helpful to gloss over like how just staying hard this stage is. And so it makes sense that a lot of us are just trying to get through it and hope to like get to that upside of the happiness curve, right? And it's easy to slip into victimhood or just feeling like at the effect of midlife, or that, here's one more thing that's kind of being taken away from me in this time. And a lot of us, it's easier to choose, something that numbs instead of like truly dealing with the thing and finding a new way through it. Like that's just, life is hard. Life is very busy in midlife as well, generally, right? So there's not a lot of time often to have the capacity to think bigger thoughts about this time. And we make stories in the first place to help us understand our world. They help protect us. They help us cope. So a lot of our stories, like especially in childhood, right, we created them in response to something that perhaps was really hard or painful. And that story served us well as children. It kept us safe. And maybe now we are growing out of it, or now we need a bigger story to live in because we're capable of so much more and we have more support around us, or we just desire different things for ourselves. Here's a quote for us, which now my people are over here, so I can leave you. Okay. This is by Bruce Feiler. He's the author of, I'll show you the book, Life is in the Transitions, which is a lovely book in case you just need a good read about the possibility within a transition. Here's what he has to say. Life is the story you tell yourself, but how you tell yourself that story. Are you a hero, a victim, a lover, a warrior, caretaker, believer? Matters a great deal. How you adapt that story, how you revise, rethink, and rewrite your personal narrative as things change and lurch or go wrong in your life, that matters even more. And this is really getting at the gist of why this is valuable to spend time on. Like we actually can adapt our story. We can tell our story in a way that is more empowering, is more enriching. So when you're willing to pause and examine your story, that really is the opportunity to live on purpose. And the story we tell ourselves creates our identity, right? So what better place to spend a little time on making sure, does this still fit for us for midlife? So imagine if a year from now, there we go, if you made no change to your story, thinking about like going back to the fill in the blank we had of midlife is, if there was no change to that story, June 2026, like what would that create for you to just live inside that story? And if that's awesome, then cool. What parts of that could you live even more on purpose and with even more permission and even more boldly? And if that's not feeling awesome to live inside, what if instead you chose the parts that felt good, that you wanted to keep, and cut and edited the ones that were not serving you so well, found new ways to tell your story that were really empowering or energizing or enriching or whatever it is that you're needing in this chapter of life? A year from now, what would that create? If you want to take a moment and just jot that down, I think it's useful to spend time in that idea that we literally can change the future with the story that we're telling ourselves today. So we're going to look at the power you have in shaping the story of you in midlife, and make sure that, like, is it serving you well? Does it feel good to live inside? Is it big enough for you to live inside right now? And is it unlocking what you need from this chapter of life? And I'm going to turn it over to Emmy, who's going to walk you through, okay, great, now how?
Okay. So how do we do this? Um, to start, let's play with the chat or writing it down. Either way. So no, let's do the chat. Drop in one word that describes the tone of your inner voice lately. Is it excited, critical, stressed, hopeful, worried? One word. Yes. Anxious, hopeful. Ah, awesome. Okay. Um, Unsettled. All right. Thank you. This is perfect because now we're going to be talking about one of the most powerful tools in this process that we're calling becoming the observer. This is the essential first step to any kind of personal change. And it's something that once you get it, you can't unsee it. So let me ask you this. I think I would know the answer, but have you ever caught yourself in the middle of a thought spiral? We often say they're like negative thought spirals. It could be like I'm running to meet somebody for an appointment, I'm running late, and now I start going, "Oh my gosh, how come I'm late again? And why do I not learn to leave earlier? And now they're going to be disappointed, they're going to think I'm a flake and irresponsible, blah 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 blah." And inevitably I might come back and go, well, wait, why am I being so hard on myself? Everything's, it's fine. I'm fine. They're fine. That tiny moment of awareness, that's the observer coming online. And we do this all the time. We do it all the time without giving it much attention. But when we use this as a tool, this being the observer as a tool, then it becomes a game changer. Because here's the thing, you might have heard this before, but you are not your thoughts. And the easiest way to prove this is this. You can hear your thoughts. You can become aware of them, right? You can listen to them, analyze them, argue with them even. That means there's you and then there are your thoughts, two different things, right? This concept is really well described in a book called The Untethered Soul, and the author is Michael Singer. I don't have a book to show you because I read mine electronically, digitally. But he walks people through this with really great clarity. And I have a quote from him. Do we have a slide for that? Yeah. Okay, thanks. There is nothing more important to true growth than realizing that you are not the voice of the mind, you are the one that hears it. I have a couple of stories to illustrate this. First, last year, I was co-hosting a podcast, and we were interviewing an 18-year-old boy, a senior in high school, for this episode. And he was talking about his OCD, his obsessive compulsive disorder. He is brilliant. Anyway, he was talking about how he manages intrusive thoughts, which, if you know anyone with OCD, there's anxiety that comes from these intrusive thoughts. And he went on to explain how he created a visualization process for himself. So he imagined he's standing in the middle of a river with a flowing current all around him. And this flowing current represents his thoughts. And when he needs to manage his thoughts, manage his anxiety, he would visualize he steps out of the river, backs out, and now he's observing the river flow in front of him, observing all of his thoughts. He is an 18-year-old that created a visualization process to sit as the observer. This is amazing. And we'll send you the link to that too, because he was absolutely astounding. Another way I like to think of this is imagine you're watching a movie and your thoughts are playing all over the screen. Most of the time in our life, we are in the movie reacting to everything, every scene, every character, and the horrific plot twists. But becoming the observer means you take a seat back and you're in the audience. So you're still watching the movie. You see all the thoughts in the movie, but you're sitting in back and you have popcorn and you've got perspective now. Those, I think, analogies help us get different perspective on a concept we're trying to learn. So those are my stories there. Okay, so let's try something. If you will play with me, close your eyes, trust. Don't overthink it. Nobody's looking at anybody. I'll close my eyes too. Um, so no right or wrong here. Close your eyes, and for the next 30 seconds, just listen to your mind. Let it go wherever it wants to go. Don't try to stop the thoughts. Just listen. Okay, now you can come back. You can open your eyes. Thanks. Thanks for participating. So think about what you noticed there. Were you able to hear a voice or have awareness of thoughts going by? Did you notice any repetitive thoughts or judgments or to-do lists or sounds that you were focused on? All of that would be the movie, but you are the observer. And if anything pops up for you, you can make a note of that, or just give me a thumbs up if that was a good reset. So practicing this is just a tiny act of noticing your thoughts. And it is everything. It may not seem like much in the moment, but this is the crack where the light gets in. It's the beginning of change. And because once you can observe what's happening inside your mind, now you can do something powerful with it. We like to simplify this process into 3 small but impactful steps. Pause, observe, choose. This is a foundation for so much of what we're teaching in our On Purpose series, and it's a practice you could use anywhere, anytime. Pause, you create a moment of stillness, a breath, a beat. This gives you space. Observe, you notice what's happening without judgment. What are the thoughts? What is the story? What is the pattern? Choose, you ask yourself now, as an example, what do I want to do with this next moment? So that is how we're shifting from reactivity to intentionality, from this is happening to me to this is happening and I get to decide what happens next. And that brings us to our next concept, agency, exercising agency. This is the power to choose on purpose with a purpose. It's very simple in theory, but again, life-changing when you practice it. It's about creating a difference between being the character in your story, or possibly the victim, and becoming and embracing the role as the author with full editing rights. So let's talk about agency. Has different meanings, right? I work in an agency, but that's not the one we're talking about. Agency today in this context is all about your ability to choose, make a choice, take action. It's the difference between living on autopilot and living intentionally. It's about choosing your response, choosing how you respond instead of just reacting. Even when, again, life throws us these plot twists, and in midlife, there are many in these transitions. So again, in the book that Kristen mentioned, Life is in the Transitions, the author, Bruce Feiler, I call him Feiler, you called him Feiler, he says that in chaotic or uncertain times, people who move forward most successfully are the ones who stay connected to this sense of agency. They don't deny what's happening, but they do decide how they want to respond. So again, participation. Think of one small thing in your life right now that feels off or out of alignment. Nothing huge, just a micro frustration. So get one of those. So many to choose from. Now ask yourself, what is one small choice I can make this week that would shift that even 5%? Because sometimes one small shift can elicit a big sensation or change. And I actually find myself saying this a lot in my yoga classes. I've been teaching hot yoga, the super hot Bikram style, for well over a decade. And it's a very challenging yoga series, as some of you know. But I love it because it's a unique yoga practice, because after each pose, we pause. And that pause is everything. It's where we practice choosing our response. Maybe in that moment, it's take a deep breath. Maybe it's a shift in mindset. Maybe it's like, I'm just going to relax my shoulders. That's one example of agency in action. So yoga is a wonderful way to practice what we're talking about, but there are many ways. However you start, please, I encourage you to practice this pause, observe, choose, and practice it until it becomes a new habit, like muscle memory. That was a lot. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? Comments, questions, answers, comments? Perfect. Okay. Um, as we're continuing through our On Purpose series, we're going to continue to build on this foundation of observing and exercising agency and being the author of our story through this systematized pause, observe, choose. And in our next workshop, which is called The Power of Midlife Energy, we're going to explore how our energy, which is the same in our minds as like our mindset and our perspective, how does our energy shift based on how much agency we feel we have? Because in lower levels of energy, think about, when you're feeling like the victim, that's that mentality of life is happening to me. Everything is happening to me. Sometimes it's poor me, it's happening to me. You can feel powerless, reactive, sad, frustrated, angry, like a victim. But as we start to become an observer and exercise our agency in our life, we can elevate to higher levels of energy and perspective, more anabolic levels of energy. And then we experience peace, collaboration, creativity, purpose, greater vision. So that is going to be the focus of our second workshop. You just got a little sneak peek of that. When Chris and I were building this out, we said we have to make a point at some time. We want to be clear. We are not advocating for this idea that we're just going to pretend everything's fine. And it's not a fake it till you make it approach. That's so not what we're saying, that we're just glossing over and just flipping the switch on everything. Instead, we're being intentional. We're asking questions. We're taking a step and saying, what is one positive step forward I take from here? Or what is the opportunity for me at this moment? Or how could this situation, fill in the blank, actually be working for me when I might be feeling like everything is against me? Hope that makes sense. Before I hand this back to Kristen, I want to remind you of another famous guy. I think I put his quote, thank you. And this is from Viktor Frankl, who claimed that his agency and his ownership over his perspective helped him to find meaning in even the most horrific of circumstances. I'm sure you know of him having survived living in a Nazi concentration camp. He said, everything can be taken from a man or woman, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And I go back to Kristen. You're on mute.
Thank you. That is correct. My story was muted. I appreciate you making sure it stopped being muted. All right. Well, let's talk about, and Colleen, bless you. We'll release you. Thank you for being here. Let's talk about how else to practically put this into practice, because Emmy has just laid some gorgeous, great, big, beautiful ideas to live inside. And we're just going to wrap that with a little practical strategy in case you need a little help knowing how to take action on this and want to take it out for a spin. So go back. We'll just start with, go back to the story we started at the beginning of our workshop of Midlife Is. And I had you fill in the blank, and hopefully you have that still handy for yourself. Think about that story that you have there right now. Is that a story worth living inside? We'll say for just the next 6 months. Is that the story you want to live inside for the next 6 months? If so, fantastic. Do it on purpose now. Do it with more permission. Do it with more ease, more comfort. Like really wear it and get comfortable in it. And love it. Love that you're living in that story that's serving you well. And if it's not quite the story that you would like to keep living inside, how can we make it more on purpose so that it's more life enriching, more awesome, more joyful, more powerful? Like you get to fill in the more what, like what do you want in this next chapter of life? For me, life enriching feels really juicy and good right now. For someone else, it might be a more easy chapter, maybe more joy, maybe more laughter, maybe more connection, whatever it is. How could this story be rewritten so it has more of that you want and need in this next paragraph of the story that you're living in right now? What would be more awesome and energizing, really? And why don't you take a moment? This, again, you don't have to share this with the group, but I do think it'd be valuable to write down for yourself, because often what we write down has a better chance of getting lived out. So just go ahead and write down for yourself, what would you like your story to be? Midlife is in the next six months, year of life. What would you like that story to say? Midlife is. We're going to do it too with you. All right. So what would be different if that was the story you just wrote down? If that was the story you were living inside for the next 6 months, year of life, what would it feel like? What would it look like and smell like and taste like? And who would be in it with you? You can just engage your imagination in what that would start to feel like and be like. One thing we can do in rewriting our story and playing with our story is to literally just change the words, which might be what we've done in your midlife is. Maybe we've changed some of the words. And to go back to a point that Emmy made, this isn't a fake it till you make it. This isn't an opportunity to gaslight yourself. That would be the last thing we want this to be. So this isn't about just glossing over what is hard and genuinely, truly awful in life and just putting a nice word on top of it and then calling it a day. The hard stuff needs to be lived. The hard stuff needs us to sit with it. The hard stuff needs to be acknowledged. We often need help living through it with others. It's not about just gaslighting ourselves and making just a change of words. But there is a genuine power in our agency when we name some different words, we name some different things we want in our story, that genuinely invites our brain to start looking for those things. And our brain is this just a confirmation bias machine. So if we are looking for life to be more fulfilling, then it has a chance to find the things that mirror back fulfilling. And that reinforces it. And we're able to find more and more. So naming it genuinely is an act of agency. And maybe it's something to, literally put on a Post-it note on a mirror, or put it somewhere on a notes app on your phone, somewhere. Just make it really concrete so that it's easy to remember. This is something you were wanting for your life. And it's also not about writing the perfect story. So it might feel a little too big for a Wednesday to think about your rewriting your whole midlife story. So maybe just think of it as like, what's the next paragraph you would like in the story to be like? And that too doesn't need to be perfect. Just a sense of you get to practice your pausing, observing, and making an active choice of what's good for you for right now. So if you live in this story, that's probably that is of a choice rather than something that feels like is happening to you. That right there starts you down a totally different path than just walking blindly through midlife and hoping it gets better from here. So those are a few practical tools and big ideas. I'm going to hand it back over to Emmy to bring us back to our scaling question and see where we've come so far.
Okay. So when Kristen and I work with our coaching clients one-on-one, I know we both work with a similar framework in that at the end of a session, we like to pose a question that helps gauge the progress we've made in that one session or measures insight gained. So in the spirit of that part of our coaching culture, we go back to that question we pose in the front. So once again, how would you rate your level of agreement with I am the absolute author, editor, and publisher of my story? And hopefully we have gained a little bit there. But overall, we really just wanted you to leave tonight feeling empowered to be the ever-present editor of your personal narrative, knowing that you have agency to create positive change. So, okay, so what's next? What's next? We invite you to join us for the complete series, and we'll keep you informed of all the dates, but just know we'll be hosting these monthly. And if you found this valuable, please share the information with a friend for next time. The next one is the power of midlife energy, and then the power of midlife values, the power of midlife purpose, and the power of midlife relationships. And we'll send you an email tomorrow with more information, as well as the replay for this session and a survey, a form for you to provide feedback for us so we can continue to improve our program and content. Just know that Kristen and I see you as our thought partners in this and want an ongoing discussion. So yeah, please know how much we look forward to receiving feedback. That's really helpful. And as a bonus for joining today, and because every fun gathering deserves party favors, we're going to give you a list of our favorite books and podcast episodes that relate to this discussion so you can continue to learn and explore that. And we'll send you that email tomorrow as well. And if you want to dive deeper into your personal narrative and how you exercise your agency, of course, we work one-on-one with people. So you'll have our contact information if you ever want to work in that capacity. And before we turn off or open up the microphones, if anyone wants to say anything, again, we just thank you for spending this hour with us and being curious, present, and open, because that's no small thing in midlife, and you are our people.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing and for being willing to experiment with us in this and adding to the ideas and the just so you know the whole series we're offering, since this is our first time out and we're trying to make it as awesome as possible, is free. So there's no reason not to sign up for the next 4. We're going to make them available one at a time and invite a friend, pass it on. The more feedback the better. And yeah, thank you for being part of it. Anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Emmy. Did I cut you off?
Oh, I'm just saying I put our little bonus piece in the chat
good.
too.
The bonus is in the chat. We'll also email it to you in case you don't want to download it there. So it's some reading recommendations, it's podcast recommendations, because honestly, in midlife, sometimes you don't always have time to read a whole book, but like maybe you have 45 minutes on the way somewhere to listen to a podcast. That's my thinking there. So these will all help you feel better about midlife, which I also think is important and empowering. These aren't just downer stories about midlife. These are empowering.
We would never do that.
There's plenty of those. That'd be like a terrible recommended reading list. Yeah. I have some dystopian films I could recommend that would fill that category. But does anyone we invite any questions, comments, responses, storytelling? You are absolutely welcome to outright reject anything we've shared, push back against anything. Mostly we want you to take away something that's valuable to you and ditch the rest. But yeah, just open it up for Q&A here or comment.
Hi. I just wanted to say thank you for making me feel better about. So my first answer from the 1 to 10, I was a 5 and I'm ending at an 8. And so just that alone is a really lovely reassurance in 45 minutes that we've been talking or whatever. So I just thank you for that and for all of the interesting and thought-provoking questions that you're framing it with story. It's an intriguing concept, and I appreciate the whole theme of agency. It's something I'm wrestling with currently, so that definitely spoke to me. So just an overall thank you for this.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you for that.
Thank
Yeah, thanks
you.
for sharing that too.
Thanks.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just
Great.
second that. Thank you. This is just lovely and so fun to just be a part of. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for being part of it.
Thank you. Thanks for
Yes,
being
you guys,
here. We
you guys
appreciate
are
you.
awesome. We love that. Here's us in case you want to reach out before our next session. The next session is about a month from now. There'll be about a monthly cadence, and like I said, all free. So we will send you that information. Please free to share it widely. We'd love to get this conversation with as many people as possible because we learn through it, and we think there's a lot of value in the world by being able to look at our stories and write better ones together.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right, thank you,
all.
Awesome. Thank you so
Thank you,
much,
Kristen.
ladies.
Bye.
Appreciate it.
Thanks
Have a
to
good
all on the
night.
replay. Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Have a
Bye-bye.
great evening, everybody.